text and translation, sixth and seventh point. If you could read the translations in English, please.
Okay, but after all, who knows and who can say whence it all came and how creation happened? The gods themselves are later than creation, so who knows truly whence it has risen? Uh, okay, whence all creation had its origin, the Creator, whether he fashioned it or whether he did not, the Creator who surveys it all from highest heaven, he knows, or maybe even he does not know. I mean, I don't like this. This is wrong because even though this assumes that we don't know how the world was created, it is assuming that there is a creator. So there's
I know that.
skepticism. Yeah, so there's skepticism applied to the creation of the world, but the skepticism is not applied to the fact on whether the world even has a creator or not. So this is
Correct?
selective skepticism. So if you want to
Correct?
congratulate that for applying skepticism to some part, you should also condemn it for not applying skepticism to the whole idea of having a creator or not. The
Correct.
creator
I should
is
not just
assumed.
say that I shouldn't not just say that, what, they were skeptical. I should also be, equally condemning on the part that they still consider that to be a creator. But then again, if we take all these problematic verses within Rig Veda, as you mentioned, and other people mentioned as well, not just you particularly, in a video where there is problematic things within Hindu scriptures, and take them literally. I'm just building my case here first. You
Hmm.
must also take this verse very seriously. Otherwise, you are being not consistent. You are being
No,
inconsistent.
yeah, I do take it, but okay, what are your views on Islam? Can you tell me that?
If I could just finish this one and then I will say that. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Finish this
So
one.
let's take this particular verse to its logical conclusion. Let's take this premise to its logical conclusion. Okay, there is a God. They did not deny that there is a God or there is not God. There is no agnosticism, but there is selective skepticism, as you pointed out. But
Right.
what kind of God is this? Think about it. This God is perhaps not the responsible for creating the universe. So I don't know, but I think it pretty obviously says something about the omnipotence of the God. God can do everything. Here it is doubted. Perhaps God is not omnipotent, but perhaps He is. I agree with the He is part two. There is that as well. But at the same time, I would be also cognizant of the fact that they also thought that the God did not create the universe. And then second part, His omniscience is questioned on. Obviously, I know that there is no God. This is like a very silly argument. I know that. That's obvious. But there is a God whose omnipotence and omniscience is questioned. And if you like, I'm consistent with all the verses that is written in Rig Veda. How much amount of seriousness and dogmatism could I possibly, if I'm being consistent, consistency is the keyword, can provide to all the problematic verses that are within Vedas, and even the good verses within Vedas?
There are no good verses. Can I tell you why there are no good verses in the Vedas?
Yeah, yeah.
Because good conclusions with bad methodology are more dangerous than bad conclusions with the wrong methodology. Do you know why? This is why I'm good. This is why I brought Islam. Okay.
Okay.
Do you do you just can you just quickly tell me what are your views on Islam? Do you like Islam or you don't like Islam? Just yes,
No, no,
like
no.
you
Not
don't like
like I.
Islam. You don't like Islam. Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought, but I didn't want to assume though.
Mm.
Did you know Islam is obsessed with taking care of orphans to make sure
No.
that they take care of them? Right? You know that, right? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Obviously, that's a good thing. Yes,
That's a
yes.
good thing, right? So my point is that wrong methods, wrong methodologies, right? Like faith, revelation, um, divine inspiration. Um, these methods often give you conclusions that are not very helpful, okay? Because it's not based on understanding of how the world works. It's not based on processes and methods that have proven to give us consistently uh, conclusions or model of the universe that have predictive power, that are the most consistent and give us tech tools and technology that produce, brings people out of misery, right? The most, right? These, so often they give you bad answers. They give you bad answers often, right? But so here and there, I mean, it would be a miracle if they only give you bad answers. It would be almost impossible if any form of dogma or a system of ideas with that much text have nothing but bad ideas. Obviously, even if it was just random values, if you created a random value generator, it will spit out some good things here and there. Like, hey, take care of your friends. I don't know, take care of your neighbor. Be skeptical. Freedom of speech is a good thing. I don't know, something's going to pop out that is going to be good. And I think when something good pops out, those good conclusions are more dangerous than the bad ones, because those good conclusions are then used to
Sugar pill.
legitimize a very flawed methodology.
Sugar coating on a very toxic peel, as you said before.
Yes.
I understand that.
Okay.
But just one question:
Hmm.
do you have any, to your knowledge? I'm trying to now read Islam as well and Christianity as well now. I'm starting to.
Hmm.
Do you think that within Quran or within Bible they
Hmm.
are questioning
No.
God's omnipotence and
No.
omniscience?
No.
No.
Skepticism is not promoted in Islam. Or
Okay.
Christianity. In fact, it's completely the opposite. No, I will give you that. The Vedas seems to be promoting skepticism to some extent, selectively, and that's a good value that I agree with. And Islam and Christianity do not have that. But so what?
Yes, just one thing. I want to add to that.
Okay.
So, if I were to conclude in my own way, this is not deducing. This is just concluding based on obvious and straightforward verse.
Mm-hmm.
God's omniscience and omnipotence is questioned. So either you can say that, you know what, he is not, he is, and he isn't. And let's say if you go with that particular version of it, what kind of God we are left with? That's my simple thing.
Does it matter? The fact that it has gods is already makes it nonsensical. The fact that it already
I,
that the fact
I
that there is
understand.
a god. Okay. So what's the?
Yes.
I mean, I don't really know why. Okay, can you tell me what's the point of focusing on the kind of God instead of the fact that there
So
is even a God?
So when the problematic verses in Vedas come in, and let's say I am a Astic Darshan, I am just biased based on my birth and based on my circumstances to believe and be very much attached to Vedas. But I find those problematic things within Vedas, treatment of other people, lower caste, upper caste, sorry, only lower caste, out of caste, Dalit, woman, whatever, animal sacrifice, everything. I am, as my own human being, finding my own moral compass based on what I see around everywhere else, based developing my own other sources, my own sources. My head is a source. I think and I have ideas, and I find these problematic things within Vedas, and I'm like, what do I do? This is
Mm-hmm.
problematic things within Vedas. I am stuck. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. It's simple thing. I say, you know what? I'll just refer to this Veda, this particular sukta, this particular verse, and say, perhaps you know what? God is nice and all. Yeah, no problem. You want to believe in it, God? Okay, I don't believe it, but then I would be an astika. But let's say I believe in God. But you know what? I think God messed up on this particular verses that are probably very bad. What do you say?
Hmm. Oh, you get.
Yeah, okay, give me your arguments and I'll give all those arguments. You're like, this verse is bad, that verse is bad, that verse is bad. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, okay, yeah, it is bad, it is bad. So what do we do? Well, you know what? Here, I can go either way. I can question the omnipotence and omniscience of God, and I could run. And there is no obligation to do one or the other. So I do the part of questioning it, and I reject those verses. And yeah, I mean, okay, we are being consistent with what is written in Vedas, so there should not be any problem. And okay, then if we have rejected it, then perhaps we will have a new version of it. I don't know, we could call it Rig Veda 2.0 or something. And guess what? Who did that?
Hmm.
Arya Samaj did. They had Vishuddh or Shuddh, I don't know what Vedas. And
Okay,
they
let me
are
let me
very much
let me try this with
and
something
they're
else.
not blasphemers.
let me try this with another book with you, okay? Let me try this what you did
Okay.
with another book, okay?
Mm.
What are your views on Mein
Okay.
Kampf?
Oh yeah, extremely
You don't
bad.
like
Yeah.
it, right? You don't like it. It's a crappy
Yeah.
idea, right? What if
Yeah.
the people, like, we're trying to confront the people who use that book as a guide to their values, right? And I said, like, look, hey, look,
Mm.
let's call him Adolf. Let's not use his last name because YouTube doesn't like that. Okay? Let's say, like, hey,
Okay.
obviously, Mein Kampf could not. There, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to find at least one sentence in this book that is true. One sentence. I don't know where, I don't know
Okay.
what, but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure there's one sentence there, right? I'm going to say, like, hey, I'm not following this book dogmatically. I'm just using my own metric to figure out what is true and what is not true. Okay? And Harsh, do you agree with me that this sentence is true? Let's say that sentence is objectively true. Okay? I agree with it and you agree with it, right? So we
I
cannot
must
just,
agree.
yeah, we can't just throw all this away. We just have to keep this book and we should just apply our own reason and just go through it by sentence. And then the parts that is like racist and anti-human, we could be like, okay, okay, I disagree with those parts, but we could still have this book. We could still celebrate this book. And we could just be skeptical about it and maybe slowly change the parts that we don't like, maybe replace it. And we could still be like, oh, this is a book that we celebrate, but we don't have to follow it dogmatically. We don't have to change our name. We could still be the people that are called the N word, and I'm not going to say it. We can just reform it, slowly change it. We don't have to throw all of this away, right? And we could just apply yeah, based on, I know I'm not a racist, okay? I don't believe in authoritarianism, I don't believe in fascism, and those are the values that I have came up with based on my own thinking and based on my own understanding. And I'm just going to look at this book objectively and I'm going to reject the parts that I don't like. I think, Harsh, if I did that, you would come to me like, you're going to say, Armin, are you insane? Why are you keeping this book relevant? Why are you making more people think that this book deserves to be celebrated as a guide to life? If you have objectively came up with this ideas yourself, then throw away the goddamn book. If you want to study it as part of history, study it as part of history. But do not act like this book should have any authority or legitimacy in as a guiding principle in anyone's life. Just because you found something that in it that you agree with it, if you didn't use the book to come to that conclusion, by celebrating this book, by saying like, oh, we don't have to throw out the entire thing, we could celebrate this part and change the other parts, you're making this book remain relevant as a guide to life longer. You're giving it authority and legitimacy. If you want to keep it as part of history and study it as part of history, do it. But do not act like this book should ever be used by anybody as a guide to life. Do you see what my problem is with this methodology?
Yeah.
What do you
Okay.
think?
What if we have? I don't like this idea, but let's say we will go with this analogy. Mein Kampf 2.0, and
Ugh.
we in the
Mm-hmm.
preface we acknowledge, you know what, the previous one was a really shitty one. There are
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, if I were to do quantitative analysis word by word, I am agreement with only 5-2% of it. Rest 95% is problematic.
Mm-hmm.
This new version rejected all those, and I have filled with, while being consistent with identity, not something that is, very much regional to Deutschland or Germany, but something in general that is good. And I have changed the meaning of it. I
Okay.
acknowledge not Mein Kampf 1. I acknowledge I'm not living in a state of denial that this is not Mein Kampf 1.0 or original Mein Kampf. This is
Mm-hmm.
Mein
Mm-hmm.
Kampf 2. And I also see you saying that, are you like, do you have something
Mad.
here or not? Why use Mein Kampf? Like, you know what, there are really a good other titles. I know that, man. I know. And this is really good that there are not many people following Mein Kampf, but like, in an alternate universe where there are many Nazis and we can't get rid of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, we
It's
can't use
okay.
that person.
Say naughty. Say naughty people. Okay, we'll go on.
Okay, Nana people. And we can't get rid of them. So this would be my solution to that. I know it would be difficult. I know it would be insane. I know that all this is very obvious for me. But I'm just saying, if I were to, simple small steps to gradualism to this state I am, I would use that step. Yeah.
Okay, so but you don't see a problem with the fact that you are using that title and using that name in in the version 2 of this book, even though it has very little to do with version 1, even though you change most of it, even though you're using your reason instead of following the book 1 into deciding what's good and what's bad. You don't see a problem with using the title of the first book that helps legitimatize and normalize and give authority to the dominance and to the influence of the first book. You don't see a problem with using, don't you think like that's a bad idea, that you should completely just reject the first book and just come up with saying a book with a new title that is just based on reason, that it has nothing to do with the first book at all? Don't you think that's a better thing to do?
That's a better thing to do, but I am kind of trying to be practical. I hope it would be, as good as I think, but reality, unfortunately, as I see it, is not that simple and easy. I wish it would be.
Actually, actually, if you look at reality, okay, um, we can see that the people who actively just go against values like this have been responsible for more progress than the people that are constantly trying to reform, reform, reform. The people who are trying to reform are responsible for keeping these ideas from dying. They have made their death slower, right? For
And
example, if you want to look at what happened with Christianity in Western Europe, the people who were reforming Christianity were not responsible for the reduction of the influence of Christianity. Those are the people who managed to keep its influence longer. The people who managed to put Christianity on the back seat, who managed to make it go in a defense mode, were the Enlightenment thinkers, the people who were aggressively anti-Christian. Okay, the reforming that was in response to the Enlightenment thinkers, the people who were anti-Christian. Okay, those reform movements were not there because they wanted to make Christianity more humanist or more in line with modern thinking. They were the people who wanted to make sure that Christianity does not die. That's why we don't want the reform movement. We want Christianity and Islam to die. Okay, so even though the reformations are a reaction to like Enlightenment thinkers, that doesn't mean that that's something we celebrate. We understand that that's a reaction to Enlightenment thinkers, but if the defense mechanism was not there, their death would have been earlier. The people that have forced Christianity or Islam to pretending that they're something that they're not are the people who are actively taking a position against these religions. Not the people, none of these religions ever voluntarily went in and changed from within. If they ever pretended to change, it was always in a reaction to people who were challenging it from the outside, not from the inside. Okay? So even if you're interested in seeing more reform like this, then you have to join my side, which is from outside, aggressively taking a position against these dogmatic ideas, not from inside. From inside, the people who are making this reform from inside, that's only in response to the challenges of people from the outside, right? Why do you think right now Hinduism say like, oh yeah, Hinduism is scientific, oh yeah, it's not anti-woman, it's not anti-this? Do you think because Hinduism like voluntarily decided that, oh yeah, these are better values, we should just evolve because this is a good thing to do? Or do you think this is all a defense mechanism against the people who are challenging Hinduism as a backward idea that is keeping humanity behind and the rest of the world is moving on? This is in response to anti-dogmatic views, right? This is in response to people challenging these ideas, saying that they're backward and barbaric and violent and do not deserve in the modern world. That's why the reform is happening. So even if you're interested in seeing more of that, then put your energy in the force that is encouraging more of that, which is anti-Hinduism. Not reforming Hinduism, it's anti-Hinduism that even encourages changes like that. And you want pragmatic? This is what history has shown. This is what history has shown with Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism. Why is it that only since the Enlightenment movement, Hinduism is all of a sudden saying like, oh yeah, we love science, we love skepticism. Like when was that a highlight? Right? Like, oh yeah, look at the Vedas. Like, was those verses always being highlighted as the main, as something to be celebrated in the Vedas, or is it only when the rest of the goddamn world decided that these are good values, all of a sudden Hindus are jumping around and trying to find those verses to highlight, right?
But then
That's
they
a
don't.
react. That's a reaction to these values. Why is it? Here's the thing: if all of a sudden the world was deciding, tell me this: if the world right now was celebrating wife beating, wouldn't you bet right now that the Hindus that are now going and finding the verses that is celebrating, I don't know, skepticism, wouldn't they right now be going out and highlighting? Right now they're saying the wife beating parts of Vedas, right? The scripture, Hindu scripture. Oh no, 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 those are not important. But the skepticism part, they're saying, oh yeah, those are the important, those are good, okay? But I'm pretty sure if the world was celebrating wife beating today, then they would be like, oh yeah, those wife beating verses. It's part of the Hindu scripture. Those are, yes, those are, look, we have that. Oh, you like wife beating? We have wife beating. Okay? So this is a reaction to the rest of the world moving into a direction. It's not because is a change that is happening organically in between. This is a defense mechanism to the rest of the world changing and Hinduism trying to remain relevant. Do you see what I mean?
I do, but I have disagreements because this part that you say, Christianity required reformation from outside, not from within, and if people trying to do it from within was slowing down that process. I agree that because only Christianity was not very contemplative and self-doubting, and I see this kind of forget me for insinuating any intentions, bad intentions, but I see that they need to neo-atheist, ex-Hindus, or whatever. They need that narrative in order to bash Hinduism. Because if they don't, and if they actually remaining consistent, in my opinion, acknowledge those skeptical part along with the bad part, I'm not saying that. I agree with the part that you say, let's focus on skepticism and ignore that. I'm not saying ignore that. Acknowledge that and get rid of that. That was my saying. But they need to distance those skeptical parts of Hinduism as not part of it. Only then they can criticize it.